Introduction to the Student T-Test. Cecil H. McManus, The Probe Consulting Company. This lecture is copywritten by The Probe Consulting Company, 2010, and by Dr. C. Harold McManus, PhD, all rights reserved. Thank you very much. Let's talk about T-Test and independent and dependent T-test. In the T-test, you are talking about the means of two groups. You're talking about the means of two groups and asking yourself, are these two means different enough that I can make the assumption that in the population they are also different? So the T-test is comparing two groups and the means of two groups. Student T-test just means the person who designed this test had the last name. His last name was Student. It doesn't mean it's just for students. The person's name was Student. Okie dokie. I like Okri. Moving on. What is the logic of this thing that we call the T-test? When I compare these two means, and I find that these two means are different, are they different enough that they're due to some factor beyond just chance? Is something truly going on? So step one, and you know before from our earlier discussion, you have to test your null hypothesis. And again, the null HO1, and it could be HO2, HO3, if there are three null hypotheses, is that there is no difference between these two groups. None. Your H1, which is your research hypothesis, says that there is a difference between these two groups. So we assume that they do differ, but again, we test the null, and the null says that nothing is going on. Now, how do you compute an independent T-test? I will go to SPSS and show you step by step how to do so, but it will look just like this. I'm going to have a group here that's going to be nominal. And let's say it's gender. So I'm saying 1 for female, 2 for males, and I will get their score on some ratio variable. And here it's who can tap their fingers fastest. So here is my nominal variable, gender. Two groups, T-test. You're going to choose analyze. Now this is an older version, so it says statistics, but in your new version it says analyze. So you'll pick analyze, compare means, and you're going to choose independent sample T-test. Independent means that the groups are mutually exclusive, which means to be in one group means that you're not in the other group. So you are male or female. You are freshman or senior. If the groups are independent or mutually exclusive, it's an independent T-test. So what does dependent T-test mean? It means that if I give the same group a pre-test and a post-test, they're the same people. So to be in group 1 is also to be in group 2. That's pre-test, post-test. So it's the same people in both groups. Therefore, they're not independent. They're dependent. Okay? You pick your variable, move it over, as you see right here. Gender, define your groups, tell the program that 1 means one thing and 2 means something else. Continue. Run your T-test. It will show you your mean, your standard deviation. Your N is right here, male and female, are your two groups right there under gender. It will give you your T. And we're going to assume that the variance are equal. Just assume that, and take the first row right here. Your T is here. Your DF, which is n minus 1, is here. Your alpha, which will always be significance, it's 2 tail, is 0.014. So all you need would be this number, which is your T, your DF, and your alpha. Ignore the rest in this intro class. Ignore the rest in this intro class. That will be your independent sample t-test and how we run the independent sample t-test. Okay. Whenever you are asked about a t-test or whenever you're looking at your data, say to yourself, are there 2 groups? Not 2 variables, but 2 groups. Okay, so far so good. Do I see any skewness in here anywhere? And if not, keep going. Is group membership exclusive? Which means to be in group 1 is not to be in group number 2. Male, female, freshman, senior, American, Russian, can be both. If they are independent or exclusive, it's an independent t-test. If it's the same people that I assess 2 different times, pre-test, post-test, it's a matched or a dependent t-test, as you see right here. As you look here, if it's a matched t-test, I got the same people. So person 1, call him Billy. I will test Billy in August, and I'll test Billy again in December. So it's the same person, Billy, number 1, that I'm going to test 2 times. Same thing for Mary, number 2. I test her in August, I test her in December, but I'm testing the same person only 2 different times. That's how we distinguish between an independent t-test and a dependent t-test. Isn't that groovy? All right. Okay. If it's dependent, it's 1 score person, so on and so forth. So we're not talking about, again, 2 different groups. We're just comparing the same person at 2 different times. All right. So here, again, it's the same example, and I think that is the end of our t-test show. Either that or my computer's broken. And we're